Hey guys, so welcome back to our tutorials. In today's video, we're going to create this card, and our goal for creating this card is to create the next card. And something you might notice about the next card is that it has a model that you can click and view and update the info. So commonly this one is called a popover, but in our first tutorial, we are not going to focus on this. In our first tutorial, we're going to focus on creating the card, and then in the next tutorial, we are going to focus on actually creating the functionality. So let's get started. So as you can see in my HTML, I have a blank HTML template which just have the boilerplate, and then I have the image. So this image corresponds to the image you can see here on top. All right, and then so let's get started. So how do we get started? So the first thing I want to do is I want to create this div. So I want to create a div with a class of a card which will hold our card. So we just come here and create a div.card. So we just create that card, and then inside this card, as you can see, we do have yet another div which we can call the profile, and then beneath that div we have a button. So let's create that. So we're going to create yet another div dot profile, not profile but profile. And then since this is a profile, this profile will hold the image and it will hold this content. So this image, I'm going to create a wrapper div for the image. I don't want to style the image directly, so I'm going to create a wrapper div. So yet another div dot image wrapper. So this is the image that the div that basically holds the image. So then next we're going to create the image, and then I'm going to give it a width. So this width, let me not first create the width so that you can see why we do need the width. So let's go straight to the source. So you can create an image. So they have this image. So you can download any image that you'd like, and then you can use it. I'm just using my own image for copyright issues. Then next, we do have the source of the image, and then we add the alt attribute. So alt, this one is commonly used for screen readers. So just say tech with twins logo profile. Yeah, I think that's okay. And then finally we close up the image itself. So let me save this. And then, so this is the hierarchy we are working with. We are working with a hierarchy whereby these two, we are controlling them as the profile. So this two is the profile. The profile holds the image, and the image I have placed it inside an image wrapper div. And then outside, we want to create content. We can call it info. So outside the image wrapper, we're going to create yet another div, and then we can call it something like info. This one will hold the information. So the first information is the heading. I'm just going to create a heading level 3 or maybe level 4, and then write TechWithTwin there. Then next, what we need is this email paragraph. So we just create a paragraph tag, and then we can write an email. So info@techwithtwin.com, and then we can give this a class of email, because you can see in the CSS we are going to target that paragraph so that we can add some styles. You can see this one is in italics, and then it has some different shades from the other items. All right, so that's it for the image, that paragraph. And then the final paragraph just hold the joined data. So 12 20 25. So this one is in the future but still works. So this is what we have right now. And then finally, because this was just the profile is what was holding the thumbnail or this image and the info. And then beneath that, we need to create a button. So we can say button. then it's called update. All right, so that's what we do have in our HTML. And then something else I'm going to do, I'm going to go live. So I'm going to go live, and then you can see the progress. So in my previous tutorial, I've showed how we can go live using the live server extension. So this is what we do have. We don't have any styles. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to create a CSS file. So I'll call it style.css. And then before we forget, you need to link that style sheet to the HTML. So you just use link CSS, and then you can see it links style.css, which corresponds to the style.css file name. So we do have some prerequisites whenever working with CSS. First of all is to remove the margins on every element. So just going to say a margin of 0. Then we can add a padding. We remove padding on all elements. Then we add the box sizing to border box. So these are the prerequisites when working with CSS. So failure to do this will result to issues down the line. So you can see this is what we do have. Something else we need to do is, you can see how, so let me just show you what we do have right now. This is what we have. So you can see how this content is at the end of the body. So we need to give them a breathing space. And then before I even do that, let me first give the image some width. So because we do have an image wrapper, so this is the image wrapper. Basically, this image wrapper wraps the image. So we can start styling the image wrapper. So let's go and style the image wrapper. I'll start from that. And the class is image wrapper. If we go and check this, we can see the class is called image wrapper. And then we can give this some height and width. So let's give it a width of 80 pixels. And then a height of 80 pixels. So something else you might notice is that, yes, we have succeeded in giving this a height and a width, but the problem we are facing is that the image is overflowing. Let me give it a border color. So say border equals 2 pixels solid red. So you can see where that box is, or that div. But now the image is overflowing because the image is too big for that image, for that div. What we can do here is to add an overflow of hidden. So this one will prevent overflows. So you can see the overflow is hidden, but still the image is taking up that space. So what we can do is to target the image. So we can target that image. So let me just bring up this. So we can target that image and then give it a width of 100%. So a width of 100% will mean that this image takes 100% of the parent. The parent has 80 pixels. So it will take 80 pixels as well. And then the height, we can do 100% as well, so that it can take the height of the parent. And then if we continue, we can give an object fit. An object fit basically explains what happens if an image is larger than the size of the div. So should it fill the whole space, or should it contain itself and maintain the aspect ratio? In our case, we are going to focus on the object fit of cover. So we have managed to do that. So let's go back and start styling the body, because you can see how these items are so close to the edges. So we need to give some breathing room. How we do that is that we can target the body and give it some padding. So we can give it some padding, like 2 rem of padding. Then you can see that looks nice. And then we can change the background color. So background color of, so there's a color I had. So let me just show you. 233, 211, and 182. Yeah, so that's like a beige color. So that's what we need to work on. So we have the card. The card is what wraps everything. Let's start styling the card. So what we can do with the card, let's remove the border on the image wrapper. So what we can do on the card is that we can target the card using the .card class. So the class is card. And something you might notice is that this image is flashing. So this image, even if we are styling with the CSS, this image is still, let me just show you. So this image is still so large. So let me first add a background color of white. You can see the flashing. So the image is flashing because even if we are styling the image using CSS, the image is still big. So to tell the browser how much image should it request, what is the size of the image should it request, we need to come here and edit the width, and then you can say 80 pixels and the height of 80 pixels. And then now the wrapping, the image won't start, the image will not do the flashing effect. So let's continue. So we have given our card some background color. You can see still in the card we don't have breathing room, need to add some padding. So we can come here and add some padding, something like 1 rem. Then you can see we do have some breathing space in that. And remember, this is what we are trying to achieve. So before you even continue, let's go to the image wrapper and give it some, we can go to the image wrapper and give it some border radius. So to get the circular shape, we come here and add the border radius. Let's start with like 30%. You can see 30% is not a perfect circle. So to get a perfect circle, you go with 100%. Then you can see the circle is 100%. And then to make sure that it is a circle, you need to have the same width and height so that the clippings can be all as expected. So that's it. So the next thing is to position the image and the info content side by side. So let's continue. So we are going to, so we have the profile. So we are going to target the profile and then we display them flex. So let's go to the profile. I can write beneath the card. So I can say dot profile and then display flex. You can see they are aligned side by side. Something else you might notice is that the card is too big for the content. So how do we fix that? We give the card a width. So let's go and give the card a width of fit content. So with fit content so that we can fit the content without having to overfill. All right. So something else you can note that yes, they are aligned side by side, but they are so close to each other. So we need to add a gap on the profile. So we come here and add a gap of how much? Let's do something like 10 pixels. So we can do 10 pixels. And then you can see now a space has been created. And then something else you might notice is that the image and this text content are not aligned at the center. So you can come here and say align items to the center. Then you can see now these two are aligned to the center. All right. So next thing is that you can see here we have a border color of black. So let's add that to the card itself. So in the card, let's come here and add border of 2 pixels, solid black. We have the border, but you can see these borders are very sharp as compared to these borders. So we need to add a border radius to the card itself. So we come here and add a border radius of something like 5 pixels. And then we have achieved that look itself. So let's move on. So the next thing is that you can see now this text, that this text and this text and this text, they are all crumpled together. Need to give them some breathing room, something like the space Y. So the best way to achieve this is we can still use the flex so that we can take advantage of the gap. So let's go to we have a class of info on this. So we are going to target the dot info and say dot info. And then we still want to display flex, and then we want the flex direction to be column. So we want it to be column. Then this one gives us a way to add the gap we want. So we can say the gap of something like 4 pixels. And then you can see some gaps have been created. So we are going to use the same trick on this. So this one was called the profile div, and then you have the button. So we do have the profile and the button. So even in the card, we can still use the same trick. So we display it flex, and then flex direction, we do it column, and then the gap, we can do something like 10 pixels. I think 10 pixels is okay, or 12 pixels. Yeah, so you can see now even the button takes the full width. So before we continue with the profile information, let's first style the button itself. So let's move on to the bottom and then style the button. The button, it has, you're going to use the tag because you only have one button. And then first thing first is to add the paddings. So you're going to add a padding of 5 pixels vertical and then 10 pixels horizontal. And then the background color we have is red. And then you can see the text now looks ugly. We need to write color of white. Something else is that the border is very annoying. So we need to change the border to none. And then the border is gone. Then you can see the edges are too sharp. We can do the border radius of 5 pixels. That looks nice. And then we can increase the font size. So you can say font size something like 1.1 rem. It looks a bit big, but I think it's coming close to what we want to achieve. Yeah, so what we might have missed is that now we need to, you can see now this one is a bit big, the H4 than ours. So we can go here and target the H4 element here. So we can come here and increase its size. So we can say H4 and then font size of 1.8 rem. All right, and then we're almost there. And then the next thing is that we need to make this email text. We need to put it as italics. And then, yeah, I think we need to put it as italics. So you can see it has a class of email. So we are going to say, we're going to target the paragraph and then the email. So we're going to say paragraph and then we target the email. And then in the email, we just want to make the font style is italics. And then you can see you don't have much difference. So everything looks nice. And also something else we might want to do is that this email, the email text, you can see it's a bit faded here. This one is a bit faded, so we can change the opacity and then say, what is it? Something like 0.7. And then you can see it's a bit faded. So, and all right, guys, that's how you create that card. Yeah, so that's how you can create this card. And then it looks almost identical to the one we created. And so that's it, guys. So make sure you like, follow, and comment, because on the next tutorial, this is what we are going to be creating. So I don't know where it went, but the next tutorial we have the one I showed in the previous tutorial, in the beginning. So thank you and see you next.